For months astronomers said 3 Atlas would be a spectacular flyby, a fast, harmless visitor that would skim past Mars and vanish into the dark. Then James Webb, our most advanced eye in space, sent back data that rewrote the story. The numbers shifted. The trajectory tightened. And for the first time, scientists quietly admitted what no one wanted to hear: 3 Atlas might hit Mars. This is not just a comet. It's precision maneuvers, clock-like gas pulses, an object that behaves less like a lump of ice and more like a guided system. The deeper you dive into the data, the clearer it becomes. 3 Atlas is not drifting. It's steering, adjusting its approach, and the red planet sits squarely in its path. Whatever this thing is, it isn't done with our solar system. When astronomers first spotted 3 Atlas on July 1, it looked ordinary for an interstellar interloper, a fast blur with a glowing coma, moving at nearly 87 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. At that velocity it crosses the Earth-Moon distance in under 80 minutes. Yet its behavior was the real alarm. Instead of the expected slowdown, fragmentation, or chaotic jets, 3 Atlas began accelerating subtly and consistently. Its trajectory tightened. Its coma doubled in brightness in weeks. Spectral scans showed unusual ultraviolet spikes and carbon dioxide outgassing at rates far beyond any comet we've measured. Then Webb's deep field instruments found something impossible: rhythmic pulses from the tail, not random jets from solar heating but regular thrusts every 17 minutes. A pattern. A maneuver. As Webb, Gemini South, and JPL tracked the object, the statistics formed a terrifying picture. A revised closest approach of about 1.95 million kilometers, astronomically close for an interstellar body, combined with simulations showing that a small additional delta V could turn a miss into a collision. A whisper of thrust, and Mars becomes ground zero. The outgassing appears to act like micro-thrusters, aligned with Mars' orbital plane. Scientists were no longer simply observing, they were watching and aim. This worried more than fringe theorists. A Harvard team led by Avi Loeb published a paper arguing 3 Atlas may be engineered. Radar echoes from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and Goldstone returned surprisingly sharp, metallic signatures, not the diffuse watery return of a typical comet. Amateur high-exposure images showed 3 needle-like green streams converging toward Mars, pulsing with the exhaust. Taken together, the data looked less like a natural visitor and more like a guided delivery system. If it strikes, the consequences are enormous. Estimates place its mass in the billions of tons and its velocity relative to Mars in the tens of kilometers per second. An impact at those speeds would release energy orders of magnitude above our largest human explosions, carving a crater many tens of kilometers across, ejecting debris into orbit, and scattering fragments across the inner system. Those fragments could eventually cross paths with Earth. But the damage is not limited to rock. Mars hosts decades of scientific infrastructure, delicate experiments, and missions searching for past or present life. An impact could erase years of data, blind arrays, and trigger contamination events we are ill-prepared to handle. Even darker is the possibility that the object is delivering something. Webb's deeper scans, initially classified, later partly leaked, flagged engineered materials, synthetic polymers, carbon nanotube-like structures mixed with volatiles. Spectrographs found isotopic anomalies in carbon and hydrogen that don't match known solar system sources. In short, 3 Atlas contains components that don't belong in a typical comet. When public concern rose, official communications grew silent. Press briefings slowed, telemetry feeds showed gaps, and an internal leak referenced, impact protocol initiated. Insiders described encrypted pulses sent from Earth stations to functioning Mars assets. Why turn systems on when you can't deflect an interstellar body? One unsettling hypothesis is that the signals weren't defensive, they were preparatory attempts to communicate with or prime whatever system is aboard 3 Atlas. If true, Earth's response may have announced our awareness to whatever intelligence, if any, controls the object. Cryptographers ran another experiment. Translate the object's trajectory, timing, and gravitational vectors into binary and compress them using deep space messaging standards. The result wasn't random noise but structured sequences, atomic numbers, prime number patterns, recursive intervals. The flight path itself could be a message, encoded in motion, timing, and presence. An impact, then, would be a punctuation mark in a larger sentence. More coincidences deepened the mystery. 3 Atlas's path intersects a corridor above Elysium Planitia, a region with symmetrical surface features and a small, perfectly circular basin containing crystalline silicates that emit brief infrared pulses under sunlight. Once dismissed as geological oddity, this basin's coordinates now looked like a possible rendezvous point. Trailing the main body by 0.07 astronomical units, telescopes detected a darker secondary shadow that neither radar nor infrared could explain. It maintained a fixed distance and traced a perfect orbital path, a mirror or escort that suggested a system, not a single object. Patterns continued to appear. The object's approach aligned with orbital resonance dates and rare gravitational synchronizations, cycles that ancient civilizations tracked. Some researchers noted matches with records from Babylonian, Mayan, and Andean traditions, a recurring motif of a descending serpentine body interacting with Mars. One pre-Incan stone, when processed, produced radiating lines similar to modeled debris dispersion for a Mars impact. Whether coincidence, cultural archaeology, or something else, the overlap was uncanny. Then came signals from Mars itself. ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter recorded spikes in xenon isotopes rising from below, not delivered from above. Seismic activity increased. Subsurface temperatures rose by a few Kelvin, and magnetometers recorded weak but structured pulses repeating every 17 minutes, matching 3 Atlas's emissions. It began to look less like Mars being threatened and more like Mars awakening or responding. Webb's light curve analysis revealed a recursive timing sequence, sets of pulses separated by pauses that, when mapped, form Fibonacci-like spirals, patterns associated with organic growth and encoded memory. Princeton Neurocosmology Labs reported that subjects exposed to these pulsation frequencies exhibited synchronized brainwave activity across isolated groups. This wasn't merely mechanical resonance, it looked like neurological entrainment, a signal experienced rather than only read. In the final days before the projected close approach, orbiters detected low-frequency, infrasound-like emissions originating beneath Olympus Mons. The waveform, visualized as a spectrogram, mirrored the spiral pattern in 3 Atlas's emissions. A planet answering an object before arrival pushed scientists into new territory. Is Mars echoing the approach, or is it an active participant waiting for a trigger? Archival thermal scans, once dismissed as noise, revealed subsurface heat patterns matching glyph-like shapes carved in Martian rock. Spirals colliding with circles and paired spheres aligned as if at the moment of contact. High-resolution imaging later recorded concentric ovals forming in dust fields, shifting into an unmistakable eye tilted by 23.5 degrees, Earth's axial tilt. A planet that had blinked. Whether symbol, signal, or something else, the image was impossible to ignore. In Webb's last spectral readouts before blackout, teams found repeating molecular strands in the vapor trail. Complex, replicating like sequences vaguely reminiscent of RNA but foreign to Earth. Portions matched known encryption patterns, others mapped to musical intervals. The vapor looked less like passive organics and more like living code, information structured to interact with interpretation. As the Sun, Earth, and Mars formed a near-perfect straight line and 3 Atlas intersected the axis, The configuration echoed alignments encoded in ancient megaliths on Earth. Monuments from Stonehenge to Nabta Playa point to similar celestial angles. Were those orientations coincidence or memory? If planets and monuments both encode this triad, then the final position may not be about destruction but about completion. A keyed convergence of orbit, energy, and meaning. We came to the sky expecting a comet and discovered a performance. 3 Atlas didn't simply arrive, it synchronized. Each planet whispered back. Signals, pulses, patterns. Mars didn't merely react, it remembered. Whether the final act is a crater or an awakening, the event has already altered what we thought we knew about planetary memory, life, and ourselves. 3 Atlas didn't come for Mars alone. It came for our attention. And now that it has it, the only honest question left is, what happens next? If you want every update as this unfolds, subscribe to Discover I8 2.0 and turn on notifications, because this story is far from over. Share it with someone who still thinks we're alone, and tell us in the comments, accident or invitation?